Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So as we're assessing life and we're seeing the unpredictable nature in which life sometimes gives us what we want and also takes away what we have. So we have learned over the past few sessions that living life at that level of consciousness creates a lot of pain, creates a lot of anxiety, it creates a lot of uncertainty, because by the nature of life to us, it is unpredictable. And we've come to understand that if we want certainty, and that is what we all need, a sense of certainty, a sense of stability, then it's not going to happen from the bodily level of consciousness. It's going to only occur at the spiritual level of consciousness. So gradually we're seeing by the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna is encouraging the soldier Arjuna to understand himself, understand his inner world, and understand that life at the bodily level of consciousness is totally unpredictable. And if we continue to keep our consciousness just there and build our reality from there, then certainly one day we're going to be disappointed. So as we're learning this, we're trying to take shelter on the spiritual platform. But how do we do that, and what is that platform? So Krishna starts today by explaining that reality through the process of Sankhya, analytical study, and a new concept is introducing today, Buddhi Yoga, how to connect your intelligence to the spiritual platform. So let's have a look at this verse, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 39. Esate bihita sankhye buddhir yoga tvimam shranu dhyayukto yaya partha kama bandham prahasyasi. Translation: thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. So thus far we've been studying the analytical study, Sankhya. In Vedic philosophy, there are 6 systems of philosophy, and one of it is Sankhya, the analytical study. So the word Sankhya means to count. So you literally analyze and count whatever you can. So this is a bona fide system of Sankhya, and Krishna has started with that because Arjuna's consciousness is on the bodily level right now. So the first level of reality for one who is at the bodily level of consciousness is the body, is the physical world, is the gross world. And therefore Krishna started with that in his teachings. Now he's going to move it up further to another concept. So therefore he started today by saying, I have explained this to you. Now I'm going to explain a different system to you. And this system is about work, is about action. That when you do action, you incur a reaction or a certain karmic flow, depending on what your activity was. If it was a good activity, you'll get a good reaction. If it was a bad activity, you'll get a bad reaction. So that is a system of nature. Now he's explaining to Arjuna how by connecting your intelligence, you can even transcend that. Just like we transcended matter, now the second system is teaching you how to transcend connecting your buddhi, your intelligence, by yoga, by connection to the Supreme Being. So we are using the process of connecting the intelligence to the Supreme Being. So in today's verse, there's 4 prominent words that come out here, because this verse is a connecting, linking verse to Krishna's thoughts. And as he's developing his thoughts to teach Arjuna about life, he's trying to teach him different systems and different ways by which he can relate to the same principle. The fundamental idea is that you have to connect to your higher nature, your spiritual nature as a human being. And that nature is understood by connecting it to the spiritual platform. So the teachings of Krishna is to describe different ways in which that is achieved. So the first way he's done is through analytical study, Sankhya Yoga, which use the bodily level of consciousness, using your eyes, using your senses to assess and count and understand. Now he's using the subtle body. He's using the intelligence and showing you how you can connect your intelligence to the spiritual platform. So if we assess this, so there are 4 very important words that Krishna has used today. He's used the word Sankhya, Karma, Buddhir, and Yukta. These 4 words are pivotal to understanding the next system that Krishna is trying to introduce to Arjuna. So let's have a look at this. So if we assess this, we see that karma means action. But adding the word yoga in there, then it connects action to the spiritual platform. Jnana means knowledge. But adding the word yoga in there, then it connects intelligence, Buddhi Yoga, to the spiritual platform. And Sankhya means to count. So we assess ourselves at the bodily level. But adding the word yoga in there, it becomes Sankhya Yoga, or the development of the relationship between the soul and the spiritual platform. And that becomes Bhakti Yoga. So if we assess these concepts, when they are separated from the spiritual platform, then they are karma, jnana, and sankhya. But when they are connected to the spiritual platform, by adding in yoga, yoga means to connect. By adding in yoga, it becomes karma yoga, it becomes buddhi yoga, and it becomes bhakti yoga. And these 3 are the fundamental principles that govern the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. So let's have a look at this. So Krishna starts by explaining that now I'm going to talk about the same thing but without fruitive results. So how does one work and not get any fruitive result? Because thus far we've only understood that there's good and bad. So is there a third level of work where one doesn't get any fruitive result? So he's going to describe this. He goes on, O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So now he's introducing this concept of Buddhi Yoga through intelligence. That you have intelligence at the material bodily level, but when you connect that in yoga to the spiritual platform, it becomes Buddhi Yoga, spiritualized or purified intelligence. And that is the platform you want to be acting on, because that's the level where the soul is connecting in its natural state to the Supreme Being. So he's explaining this principle to Arjuna that knowledge is not enough, you have to act. And because you're forced to act, you're going to get one of 2 results. You're going to get a good result or a bad result. So is there another way to act and not get any reaction? This is what Krishna is introducing to Arjuna now. So Srila Prabhupada gives an extensive purport where he discusses this principle of Sankhya in the Vedas, and he discusses the principle of Sankhya from the Bhagavad Purana. Because the modern idea of one of these concepts is atheistic, and the other one that's coming from the Bhagavad Purana, which is spoken by Kapiladev, the son of Devahuti, that one is theistic. That one is bona fide. So he goes to great lengths to explain that point. So we're catching the purport further down where he's explaining. According to the Nirukti, the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail. And Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. So by analytical study, one can come to understand, as we've done in the previous sessions, that the soul exists. And that is done by inference, where we're seeing symptoms of the soul, therefore concluding that there is an entity within the body that's existing which is beyond matter. So he goes on by describing, and yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification, forgetting his prime duty. He wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. So you can see at this level, So we see Krishna has defeated Arjuna's enjoyment argument, and now he's addressing his argument of sin, that I will incur sin by this, that I'll incur sin. And we were discussing yesterday that Krishna was speaking about sin from the spiritual platform, that if you don't do your duty, you'll incur sin. And Arjuna is understanding this from the bodily concept that if I kill, I'll incur sin. So two different levels of understanding. So Krishna is always speaking from the spiritual platform, but sometimes he brings it right down to where we are and then teaches us something higher. And this is what he's doing in this verse, because he was encouraging Arjuna that you'll enjoy. So he's encouraging the bodily level of enjoyment, but he's doing that to have a starting point, and gradually he builds on that from fruitive results to karma yoga. And gradually his idea is to build on that from the fruitive level that Arjuna is now on to karma yoga, to where he can connect his consciousness via the process of yoga to the spiritual platform.
Hello everyone, Namaste. Nitai here. I want to talk about the yoga ladder, which ultimately culminates in Bhakti Yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, the prime yoga text, Lord Krishna explains that yoga as a systematic approach begins with karma yoga, jnana yoga or Buddhi Yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and then culminates in Bhakti Yoga. The word yoga means to connect, connecting our consciousness to the Supreme Absolute Truth. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, and then performing your prescribed duties without attachment to the fruits, and then offering those fruits to the Supreme Lord, it is called karma yoga. When the connection is through empirical knowledge, reason, logic, analytical study, it is called jnana yoga or Buddhi Yoga. When the connection is through controlling the mind and the senses by following the 8 system of Patanjali, the yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, it is called dhyana yoga or ashtanga yoga. And hatha yoga, as we know it, falls under this category. When the connection is primarily based on a devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord, it is called Bhakti Yoga. The word Bhakti means love, and to love means to serve and please the beloved. And that is the ultimate perfection of all the yoga systems as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 47. Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham margatinantaratmana sharavan bhajate yomam same yuktak tamo mataha. Translation: of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental love and service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
So this is the second step of the yoga ladder. The first step is fruitive results. The second step is karma yoga, acting without any fruitive action, being detached. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification. So he's describing here that because your consciousness is still rooted at the bodily level, you are only seeing results from that level, both your kinsman and your heavenly enjoyment. But there's a higher level of consciousness, Arjun, and that is karma yoga, where you spiritualize your activity to higher understanding. Let's see this further. even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. So he's saying, prior you had knowledge, now I'm giving you wisdom. This is a higher level. It's even higher than duty, which I just told you just now about, Arjuna. So he's giving him a higher level of consciousness. And see how he's gradually developing this thought in Arjuna to think higher and experience higher. So he goes on. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. So this was the Sankhya level of discussion, and Sankhya Yoga would be the process of connecting that to the spiritual platform. Now let's see further. He describes here, consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service, only for the sense gratification of the Lord. So this is a new principle, that if one acts even in sense gratification, but only for the Lord, that becomes a process of purification. And this is a beautiful lifestyle that Krishna consciousness is based on, that you don't have to give up anything. Whatever you like, whatever your proclivities are, see how you can connect that on the spiritual platform. And once you do that, it's in its natural state. You don't have to give up anything.
Ever hear of the yoga ladder? Okay, let me explain it. But first, may I ask, are you one of the 2 billion people around the world who practice yoga? By yoga, I mean practicing asanas and pranayama. If you are, I say fantastic. Well done. But let me ask a question. Do you know where yoga is meant to lead you to? What is the point of it all? Because yoga does have a purpose. And the purpose of yoga is not about losing weight, becoming more mindful, harmonizing the body, mind, and environment, or even getting in touch with yourself. Those may be byproducts of yoga. But what's the ultimate goal? Okay, let me explain. And this is where the yoga ladder comes in. The purpose of yoga, according to the Bhagavad Gita, which is the unrivaled and undisputed handbook of yoga, is to climb the yoga ladder, which begins with karma yoga, the yoga of regulated work. Regulated work based on the teachings of yoga texts, like the Gita, is the foundation for the next step, which is the next rung of the yoga ladder. And that rung is Jnana Yoga. That is the yoga of philosophical study. Who are we? What's this world? Where did everything come from? And what's our relationship with the world and its creator? Again, the basis of such knowledge is the yoga texts of India. Once one has a controlled life and a clear mind, he or she is ready for the next rung. And that rung of Hatha Yoga is the yoga of meditation. And that's the rung of yoga and kind of meditation popularized today. Unfortunately, since most people don't have either a regulated life or a peaceful mind, they struggle with meditating. But once meditation becomes steady and life-controlled, what's the next rung on the ladder? The Gita teaches that action, knowledge, and meditation leads to devotion. So the top rung of the yoga ladder is Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. And Bhakti Yoga leads to the ultimate goal of all yoga systems, which is love for and eternal life with the Supreme. Thus it could be said that the yoga ladder leans against the tree of eternal life whose fruits are divine love. Here you see behind me Bhakti yogis chanting the sacred mantra that leads to perfection, love for the Supreme. They have surpassed other rungs of yoga. So don't be misled that yoga is about enjoying better sex, having a controlled mind, becoming one with everything, or that all paths lead to the same place. No way. It's a yoga ladder. It's systematic, and above all, it's prescribed, which means that it's already laid down. There's no such thing as something new in yoga. Just remember that. If it's new, it's not yoga. So if you are practicing Hatha Yoga, then see how you can take the next step on the yoga ladder to the rung of Bhakti Yoga. You can begin by studying the Bhagavad Gita, and above all, by chanting the sacred mantra of devotion, say at least 10 minutes a day. Then, the Supreme Guide within will show you the way to the top rung of the yoga ladder, to the rung of Bhakti Yoga, in the same way that I and these Bhakti Yogis have been guided. Oh, and what's the mantra? Well, here it is. Now remember it well. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.